What time is it? What time do you think it is? Hi, welcome to this week's blog. You know, if you want to know what time it is, you have to look at this tiny little nation called Israel. That really is the centerpiece of God's time clock. And you see what's going on now in the news, and it's very interesting because looking back on what has happened over the last 5 years and looking at what's going on now, and then trying to get a feel for what may happen in the future, it becomes a very interesting picture. You know, right now they are asking for another ceasefire over in Israel. What's happening in Gaza, of course, has been going on for a month now. And basically this is just pure evil what's being done over there now. They're trying to do ceasefire. They're trying to help people. The last ceasefire was supposed to be for 3 days, for 72 hours. It lasted less than 90 minutes before Hamas broke that and killed some Israeli soldiers. But, you know, when you look at the events that are happening around the world, it's very interesting to say, where does this lead us to? And that's kind of what I was pondering the last week or so. What's this going to look like a year from now? You know, the Washington Institute, which is a 501c3 based in D.C., it's a nonprofit organization. It's basically a political think tank. And what they do is they watch what's going on around the Middle East, and they come up with what's the best foreign policy for America, and they put out action policies and alerts and so on and so forth. And they just recently released an action alert and going with Gaza and what's happening in Gaza. And the Washington Institute said that by interviewing people in Gaza, by looking at the Palestinians, by talking to the Palestinians, they found some very important facts. They found that the Palestinians, the majority of them, over 78% of them, want a ceasefire. In fact, they wanted a ceasefire before they even started firing rockets. They did not want rockets to go into Israel and have return fire. A majority of the people in Gaza who live there, the Palestinians who live there, almost 80% of them do not see Hamas as being the government which they should be. They're not fulfilling their role as government leaders. They do not have the support of the people. And what really blew me away was 56%, almost 6 out of 10, who live in Gaza, Palestinians, said that they would go into Israel to work. They would find and take jobs in Israel to work. So how much hate can there be across the border if you're willing to go across the border and work in that country? So I'm saying what's happening now is pure evil because the leadership, Hamas, is forcing things. They're putting bombs in hospitals. They're putting them in schools. You know, Israel fired on a UN school about a week and a half ago, and of course the world was outraged about that. But if you would have seen what happened 2 days before that, the United Nations came out and publicly said that Hamas was storing rockets in a UN school, which was against the world rules anyhow. So, but you look at what's happening. I said that Israel is the time center, the time clock, the center of God's, you know, what's going on in the world. That tells you what time it is right there, because right there on the west side by the Mediterranean, you got Gaza and Hamas and what's happening there. Up north, you have war going on with Russia and the Ukraine. You have war going on in Syria. That's been going on for 3 years. 150,000 Syrians have been killed there. To the east, you have Iraq and what's happening there with ISIS, and them wanting to move more to the west side and move into Gaza eventually and up into Lebanon. Down south of Israel, you have Africa and the fighting that's going on in different parts of that nation. What you see now, looking back, go back 3 years with me to Libya. When you look at Libya, when you had the war breaking out there and you had the militants rising, you see almost the same exact pattern happening in Iraq today and happening in Gaza today as happening in Africa 3 years ago. Here's the question. Is Libya any better today than it was 3 years ago? You know, just last week we had to evacuate our U.S. embassy there because of fighting in war. So a year from now, where does all this lead us to? You know, Gaza and what's happening with Gaza and Hamas and Israel, this is the third time in 5 years that there's been war there. You know, Hezbollah up in Lebanon, the north part of Israel, there's tensions there. Syria in the north, Russia, Ukraine in the north, Iraq in the west. We got war fighting all over the Middle East. And it doesn't get better. The conflicts just don't come to an end. Where does this lead us? And this is what I really want to challenge you to be thinking about, looking at, and seeing beyond the headlines and seeing beyond just what's going on right now. Where does this lead to? Looking back on Egypt, looking back on Libya, countries that have been through this, they're not better off. In fact, they're still going forward. And there will be a day when this will come to a head. The Bible tells us that. And when it does, we're heading into some very interesting times. So just stay tuned to the headlines, stay tuned to Interpreting the Times, become an insider, make sure you get our newsletters and our special reports, but also just be watching what's happening, look back a little bit in history, look into Bible prophecy, see the future, see the past, see the current, and put it all together. It's a pretty amazing picture. God bless you.